If you're really committed to your business, we've all heard the phrase, time is money as an entrepreneur. But if you're the founder, it has a much more profound and personal meaning. Today I'm compelled to tackle the hidden cost of success and why so many founders and entrepreneurs feel stretched thin despite running successful businesses and companies. According to my friends over at Forbes, 2/3 of entrepreneurs, small business owners, work longer hours than they did in their traditional employment. A reality which is accepted across platforms such as Instagram, where hustle culture is celebrated. However, the issue goes deeper than just longer hours. It also centers around the concept of dependency. This week, I was honored to be joined by my friend George Rivera, who helps founder dads remove themselves as the bottleneck in their businesses without sacrificing growth, control, or what matters most at home. We dive into the powerful truth that most founders don't burn out because of their lack of drive. They burn out because everything is dependent upon them. Approvals, decisions, and daily problem-solving efforts. Even with stronger teams and systems in place, they remain the central hub and nucleus of their entire business operation. At work, they're the hero, but there precisely lies the problem at hand, and George shares how that dependency doesn't stay at the office, but follows you home, impacting your presence with the people who matter the most, your family. And over time, your success at work will quietly come at the expense of what matters at home. This conversation is not about founder hacks, but rather founder dependency removal, a strategic approach which includes ownership transfer, decision-making frameworks, and operational guardrails which allow businesses to run without constant founder involvement. This episode is for founders who want the benefit of freedom without slowing down or breaking what they built. Because, as Rivera reminds us, kids never stop needing their fathers. They just eventually stop asking. And he joined me this week to tell us how we can effectively manage and balance the two. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. If you're ready, my friend, I'm excited to talk to you about how you help dads really get more time back to for what really matters. So, George, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program and wish you a happy Saturday, my friend. And I'm super excited to learn how you help dads and entrepreneurs get more of their time back. Great to see you this morning, and happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you, Kevin. And yeah, excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, George, I wanted to start our conversation by asking you, what do you think is the key to helping dads really prioritize and manage both their life and work balance, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think we have to have a reason why, and I can share with you my reason why and how it all kind of came about. 2 weeks before my dad died, he told me, "Don't miss Leo's games. I missed too many of yours." And that hit me really hard because I realized I was on track to become version 2 of him. I'd built successful businesses. I've generated over $400 million in online sales, but the businesses still depended on me more than it should. And what I now see is that a lot of founder dads, they're out there, they're winning in business, but they're slowly drifting at home. And so the business gets the best of them and the family gets what's left. So today I help founder dads remove themselves as the bottleneck so they can grow the business without sacrificing what matters most. But it took that wake up call for me to instill the reason why. I remember my dad not making it to my games when I played high school basketball, played in about 40 games. And, I scanned the stands to see if my dad happened to make it to this game, and he didn't. But my teammates, all their dads were there. They'd score a basket and their dads would be cheering like they won the championship. And I remember looking at another dad and I was like, I wish that was my dad. And that would have crushed my dad because he was a good man. He was what I call cash rich, time poor, very successful on paper, but all the time went to his career and the family got the burned out leftovers. And so my message today is just to say that, your business gets the best of you and your family gets what's left. So my goal is to help founder dads change that before it's too late. So yeah, you have to have your reason why to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way you help dads do that is by your buyback time formula, my friend. So tell me all about it and why it's so important in helping dads get 10 to 20 hours of their time back, my friend.
Yeah, well, the thing that I found is most founder-led businesses don't have a revenue problem, they have a dependency problem, and the business still runs through them. Decisions, approvals, problem solving. So even when things are growing, it feels heavier than it should. And that weight doesn't just stay at work, it follows you home. And here's what nobody tells you, that the business doesn't take your family from you all at once. It happens in small moments, like the dinners where your phone is on the table, or the games where you show up but you're not really there, the questions that your kids stop asking because they already know the answer. And one day you look up and you realize that your family has learned to live without you, and it's not because they wanted to, it's because you trained them to. The man who doesn't fix this doesn't lose his business, he loses his family, and he never sees it coming. So again, I'm here to wake up my fellow founder dads out there that you can always go out there and make more money, but you can never redo a childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. So, George, what do you think is the key to breaking free from dependency, my friend, and really showing up as an all-star dad and husband? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah. So the practical business strategy behind it at a super high level is, first we have to identify, where are you the bottleneck, not just in tasks, but decisions, approvals, and the fires that only you can put out. Most founders are shocked by how much still routes to them. And then the second thing is, we got to rebuild how those things get owned so that they stop coming back to you. So this isn't just delegation. There's a lot more to it. It's about redesigning how your business makes decisions without you in the room. And then third, you start showing up differently at home because the business no longer needs you in everything. The energy that you used to leave at the office starts coming home with you. And that's the sequence. It's not complicated. It's just different from how most people have been doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And George, I wanted to get your perspective on the emotional reset that happens when dads get their time back, and really, because when you get your emotions back in terms of pouring into your family, the business is also a mutual recipient of that increased energy, isn't it?
That is true because, I'll just speak in my case. I was working as many as 90 hours a week, and the business was just pulling me in from everything, and I was hating life. And I know hate's a strong word, but there's no other way to put it because it was ripping my family away from me. And so I redesigned everything. And, here's an example of what life looks like on the other side. Like, imagine like you could leave the office at 3, or leave your home office because your son has practice and there's nobody texting you to come back. or you're at the Saturday game and your phone stays in your pocket or in the car the whole time. And it's not because you forced yourself, it's because there's nothing pulling at you. Or your daughter calls you first when something happens because she knows you're going to pick it up and you actually mean it. Or your wife looks at you differently, and it's not because everything's perfect, but because you showed up and you keep showing up. And that's what becomes possible when you fix the dependency. And your kids are not going to remember how much money you made. Like, at my funeral, they're not going to say, "Oh, check out George's P&L in 2026," but they will remember whether you were there or not for them. And that's my message.
Yeah, absolutely. So, George, let's talk about the hidden cost of success and really what goes into, having a successful business, but not having a successful home life. What do you want entrepreneurs and dads to know about the hidden cost of success that you haven't already shared, my friend?
Absolutely. So there's this tension, especially as the founder gets the company going, it's growing, it's scaling, and the founder has built themselves as the most important person in their business. And there's reasons for that. And I don't know that we have enough time to cover everything, but there's deep identity issues that could have happened at childhood. There's trauma and wounds that follows just about everybody into adulthood. And if those are not addressed, that could lead to reasons why men typically stay stuck in their business versus at home. The thing is, your business, it's easy to see when you're winning in business. There's a P&L, you get praise from your team, but at home, there's no P&L at home. And oftentimes founders might confuse, silence and quote, peace at home, like everything is okay. But it could be the reality that I've seen time and time again is that that's just the drift and your family's learning how to live without you. And the big lie that I've heard is, I'll just make it up to them later. Like, you don't even know if they're going to like you later on because of how you're handling today. So don't let that lie dictate how you run today. And again, I might have said this earlier, but you can always make more money, but you can never redo the childhood. You can never rewind those moments that you missed. And so another big lie is that I have to have one or the other. I can't have success in both or happiness in both. And again, that might be true because you've built yourself as the most important person in your business. So we need to get yourself out of that position so that you can give the time you get back to your family, and the time that you do spend in your business, it's working on what I call the zone of genius activities. These are things that move the needle in the business, not things that support the business, important for the business, but that should be somebody else doing those things. So I know I kind of gave you a long answer there, but hopefully that hits what you were looking for.
Yeah, George is an old journalist. No answer is ever too long, my friend, okay?
Amen.
So, my friend, I'm curious to ask you about the most important lessons or impressions that your dad left with you, my friend, and how that still impacts your life today, my friend.
Yeah, well, like I said at the beginning, 2 weeks before he passed away, he said, "Don't miss Leo's games. I missed too many of yours." And I mentioned earlier the flashback to my high school days. That was beautiful closure to whatever that was. I'm not a therapist. I don't know how to put language around that, but that was nice. But when he said that, I realized current day, which this was 2015, that I was repeating in his footsteps. So in reality, he was sharing his lament, his regret, but it became the biggest gift that he admitted that before he passed away that he could have ever given me, because it made me realize that I don't want to end up like him one day near the end of my life saying, I miss my son's games or my daughter's moments. Like, I want to be there for my children, because one thing I guarantee that you will never hear anybody say is, I'm so glad I missed your games for that client meeting. You're not going to remember the name of that client when you're towards the end of your life, but it's something that I see a lot of founders doing every single day on autopilot. And I'm here to wake them up and say, look, you're never going to get these moments back. Engage with your family and get yourself out of your business. And I'm here to share that message. I did it myself, and I know other founders can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, George, I can see the before they stop asking book behind you. So I'm going to ask you about that. In the context of what's your message to dads that say that my job is to be the provider of the family and I have to make sure that the finances are taken care of, but What's your warning sign or message to dads that aren't picking up their weight at home, my friend? What do you want dads and entrepreneurs to do?
Absolutely. So there is that tension that you just said. Like, okay, I have to be there for my family. Like, I don't think we need to convince anybody about that. That's pretty much human nature. But the other side of that is, but who's going to pay for the mortgage, the car, the trips, the lifestyle that they like and they become accustomed to? That's why the business keeps pulling the founder back in, and that's why the business continues to pile on stress. It rips the founder away from the dinner table. It disrupts the home at 3 a.m. because they've built themselves into being the most important person at home. So again, I go back to that lie that it's like I can only have this or I can have this, but I can't have both. And the reason that feels so true is because you've built yourself as the most important person in the business. So when you work yourself out of that, and it's not as difficult, there's frameworks for that you can follow with confidence, get yourself out of there. And then there's frameworks that you can implement to restore the bond at home with your family. Just like the bond was broken over little drifts, little broken promises, little things of, hey, I'll be there. Oops, I can't. The business, this is what pays our bills, and you justify it with that. That puts a rift in the family and destroys the bond. So just like the bond didn't get broken overnight, it's not going to be repaired overnight. But there's a process of coming back to the family, communicating with them, letting them know, hey, I've been this way for a while. I'm making an effort to restore this. I don't expect you to believe my word right this moment, but over time, I'm going to show you that this is a serious commitment that I'm making. And with commitment and consistency, you will see that bond restore over time. And I'm living proof of it. When my son was 3 years old, I trained him to ignore me. How? He would come up to my office door, he'd knock, and he's 3 years old. He's excited to show me something, and I'm on the phone, and I'm just saying, "Oh, son, 5 more minutes," and I mean it, 5 minutes, but 5 minutes is never 5 minutes. Sometimes it's never. Most often, it's 30 minutes, an hour. And when I'd get off the call an hour later, I'd try to go find my son and say, "Son, what did you want to show me?" And he's like, "I don't know. I saw a squirrel. The moment's gone. See ya."
Yeah.
And I completely missed that opportunity. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll get it the next time. And of course, next time is same scenario. And over time, I realized that my son was no longer coming to seek my attention because he already knew the answer. And so it took me some time to restore that bond with my son, but I got it. And I'm so thankful that I got it before it's too late. For others, it's too late. And one other message I like to share is that, we only get 18 summers with our children, and that's at day zero. Most founders, when they realize that, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm at 4 summers, or I'm at 1 summer, or I'm out of summers. And so, my job here on this planet, I feel, is to wake up other men that we only have 18 summers, and by the time you realize it, it's a lot smaller. So I know I threw a lot out at you, but as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that was one of the driving uh, forces through the name of your advisory, my friend. Just so tell me about 18 Summers Advisory and what it all about, my friend. What do you want people to know, my friend?
Absolutely. So yeah, as the name suggests, yeah, we focus on recognizing that we only have 18 summers. And for those listening and they're like, hey, I'm out of summers, that's okay too. There's ways to restore the bond with your child at any age, regardless. But these are just precious moments that form their personality and then form their version of you. Because one thing I like to ask dads is like, what do you want your child to say when they're 30 years old about their childhood? And oftentimes, that'll get, the founder dads, my fellow founder dads, to reflect on how they've impacted their children or lack thereof. And so it's a really great sort of like turn the mirror on yourself moment to see. And yeah, so 18 Summers is all about helping the founder dad realize that they don't need to be trapped in the founder prison, as I call it. We build ourselves into that, and we don't do it on purpose. There's nobody that wakes up and says, hey, I want to, destroy my family and hurt them. Nobody says that. But through our actions over the years, that tends to become the outcome if we give our best to our business and then we give our family the burned out, stressed out leftovers of dad or husband.
Yeah, and George, I know that you're someone that has experience scaling multiple companies. So I'm wondering in today's modern business climate, how can you still pour time and energy into business growth. And, there's a sign in my office, George, that says we make time for the stuff that we prioritize. So, how do we balance the two in today's modern business climate, my friend?
Absolutely. So I mentioned briefly earlier, but you want to do a review of everything that you're doing. And I'll just go in my case. So at my peak, I was working 90 hours a week. And when I reviewed everything that I was doing and I run it through what I call the 10K per hour filter, and that's just the dollar value that I assign myself. When I'm working in my zone of genius at my best, what I was born to do on this earth, my value is $10,000 per hour. So for the founder listening to this, your value could be $100,000 per hour. Your value could be 1,000, could be 500. Figure out what that number is, and then usually just double it because we usually give ourselves a low dollar value. Now that you have that, take all the tasks that you're doing every single day and run it through that. When I did that myself, I realized that 40 of those hours were on $50 an hour or less value tasks. So for about $2,000 a week, I could have gotten nearly 40 of my hours back. That's like about half the work time back. But that leaves like another big block of time. In my case, as many as 50 hours left on the other side. That's still kind of a lot of work. That's more than a full time job. So, what I realized once I got all the things I shouldn't be doing off my plate, I had the rest of my tasks to do, but those 50 hours compressed to 20 hours. Why is that? Because now I'm doing my zone of genius tasks with less stress, more time, more mental clarity, and I'm installing calendar guardrails to make sure that I'm working when I'm at my best, and all the extra time that I got back from working myself out of my business, I'm giving it back to my family. And so that's the process that I took, and that's the process that I encourage other founder dads to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And for any founders listening to this who feel stuck in their day-to-day operations of their business, but have a vision and believe in the vision, I'm curious to ask you, what would be your message to them about really knowing the value proposition of their business versus the amount of time they put into something? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, so working through this process is going to make their business more valuable. It'll raise the enterprise value for multiple reasons. And I was talking to a business broker the other day who connected me with a client, and he said the broker was like, if we can just get this client out of their business, we can increase their multiple and make it more attractive for other investors slash buyers who are going to look into the business. Because when they're looking into the business, they're seeing how much does the current owner the responsibilities, how much lands on the current owner. And if we can reduce or almost eliminate all of that, that's going to make the business more value. It's going to mean that it runs on structure and SOPs versus the founder's emotions and what's inside of the founder's brain, which is again key for enterprise value. And if you ever want to eventually sell your business, but not to mention the other benefits of just getting your life back, and then what you do with that life is the ability to reconnect with your family, but also with technology and AI today, it's easier than ever to get some of the things, especially the low-hanging fruit activities that we know. Every founder knows there's a number of things they're doing that they shouldn't be doing, but they just keep doing it because maybe it's lack of trust, maybe it's poor delegation, or maybe they just don't have the people or the team bandwidth, so they think. And so with AI, it's never been easier to get some of those things off your plate.
Yeah, George, in your last answer, you alluded to my next question. So I wanted your thoughts on this because our friends at Medium last year, George, they did a study that said that 19%, only 19% of American executives know how to delegate their time effectively, and 81% of today's CEOs and executive dads struggle with time delegation. So, what's your best piece of advice to delegate time effectively between work and life? And what are your thoughts on those findings, my friend? I'm curious to get your answer then.
Yes, a great question. So, like I've said earlier, you have to like identify the things that you shouldn't be doing. So, what do we do with those things next? That's the next step. And we run it through what I call the time liberation trifecta. There's only three things you can do with those tasks that you shouldn't be doing. And that's one, eliminating anything that doesn't move the needle. And there's a number of things we're doing on a daily basis. Number two is automate anything that repeats. And with AI today, easier than ever. And then the third thing is what you're asking about is delegation. But if you delegate tasks, I call that delayed involvement. It's just a matter before the founder gets roped back into that and you're not truly delegating it. You might as well call it some teamwork task. And I know that that's not the intention of the founder. So you want to delegate outcomes. You want to show them what does the outcome look like when they have an idea of what success is. Now they have a target goal and they can get there. And of course, you're installing guardrails on how they can communicate with you if they have a question. Versus just this random, like, oh, let me ask you this. This is a quick, give me 5 minutes kind of thing, which, as we know, is never 5 minutes. And it disrupts the founder. The founder has to switch context, and context switching is a killer of productivity. And so, delegating with outcomes is a humongous key of getting your time back.
Yeah, absolutely. And Georgia, what is your message to micromanager entrepreneurs who say that they want their time back, but they're unwilling to step away from the business and really, engage in what I call the trust exercise in business relying on the systems and the people they have in place to manage their business when they're not there. So, what's your message to micromanagers who want their time back but are hesitant to step away from their business best friend?
Absolutely. Yeah. So those that micromanage, there's probably levels deeper identity issues. And like I said earlier, I'm not a therapist. So there's a lot on that side I might not be able to speak to at a super, super high level. But from micromanagers that I've met, there are identity issues, wounds, and traumas that have caused them to be lacking trust of people. And everybody's going to have their different path to get to where they are today. And I could tell you, I probably would have been considered a micromanager to the degree, I don't know. There's probably different levels and layers to that. But I remember that it just took a small leap of faith to just step into delegating outcomes with just one task and just see that it works and experience that freedom. And then once you do, you'll be addicted to doing this to as much as you possibly can. But it takes just to experience it small. So if you're a micromanager and you're thinking, oh my gosh, there's no way I could possibly do this. Okay, fine. Let's not like jump into the deep waters on day one. Let's just delegate one thing that you feel like, okay, somebody could maybe mess up on this for a couple of days and business will be fine. So don't make it your most important thing, but just delegate one thing and see that it works, get some confidence in the process. And then as your confidence builds, you're going to want to offload more and more things through the proper frameworks and instructions that I suggest. And yeah, and then you'll become a believer in the process like I did, and you'll get your life back.
Yeah, absolutely. Georgia, I'm curious to ask you about this study from the Centers for American Progress. They've done a study between 2024 and 2026, and it found that 67% of working dads or entrepreneurs struggle to manage their time and business responsibilities, my friend. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on what you think of those findings and what it tells you about American workplace culture for dads today, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely, yeah. I have no doubt in the study. If anything, I'd argue what I've seen is a higher percentage, but it is definitely a very large percentage, more than half that don't really have control of their time, or so they say. I understand that that's more of a personal subjective thing, as some people might think they do, but in reality they don't. And what is the standard for the ideal, scheduling and time management lifestyle or what have you? But I think it comes down to having your big reason why you want to prioritize your time. Most founder dads that I talk to, they've already achieved a level of success that most people only dream about, at least on paper. But again, they've built themselves as the most important person in their business. So they can't even step away for a minute without fearing that something's going to fall apart. So again, I feel like there's a massive contribution from their upbringing and bringing in some traumas that cause them to feel like they need to stay in that position. And like I said in my previous response, is once they get a small taste of this process working, that they'll never look back. So my encouragement is just get something small off your plate so that you can see that this is a real process, a real framework that works. And then if you're anything like me, you're going to be addicted to this process. And then you'll be just sticking to your zone of genius. This isn't about not working or getting rid of work altogether. This is about focusing on the stuff that you were born to do from a business perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And George, for you personally, what's the best part about being a dad, my friend?
Yeah, I've often said that when we're raising our sons, and this can apply to girls as well, daughters, but in the context of my son, it's like I'm duplicating myself in this world. So how do I want my legacy to be reflected on? And so yeah, just the ability to influence another person who is your child and see them grow into what they are, and involving them early. Like I said, in my earlier days, I trained my son to ignore me, and I had to restore that bond. And over the years, we've developed a very tight bond. And I can explain, like, one of my favorite moments. Leo was 8 years old. That's my son, and we were looking at a property on our lake in northern Michigan. And the old version of me would have said, go sit over there. The adults are talking. Here's an iPad. Play your socks off. But no, I said, son, you're going to make the offer to the realtor. And I quickly coached him. I told him, here's the closing date. Here's the price we're going to pay. Leave the dock, leave the furniture. This is going to be an Airbnb. And I just said, go tell the realtor. He kind of looked at me like I was a little crazy. Anyway, he walks on into the house, and the realtor, this really tall guy, is looking down at this little kid talking about closing dates and leave the dock and stuff. And then he looks at me, and he's asking me with his eyes. He doesn't even verbally say it. He's like, "Is that the offer?" And I'm like, "The whippersnapper spoke. That's the offer." And we got the house. And I just love thinking about that from a legacy perspective. And that's what presence creates. It's not just memories, but it's transfer. Because I know one day, he's going to tell his kids, Grandpa took me out to make offers to homes, so you kids are going to do the same thing. So that's the ripple that's going to outlive the business. So yeah, and even to current day, he's 11 years old. He's got a podcast. He's interviewed 85 people so far. I think we're on episode 86, next recording. And these are millionaires, founders, cancer survivors, keynote speakers, people with amazing stories. And that's just evidence of a present dad in a child's life that you can do that stuff, because his trajectory was going to be just another kid on a phone and playing games that doesn't know how to look up and say hello to the world around him. And so because I made the decision to get myself out of the business and reconnect with my family, I'm able to leave a legacy and an impact like that. But I first had to do it for myself. And over the last year, I've had a major career shift to where, like, I feel like God's telling me, you got to get this message out to the world. And that's what I'm here to do on your show. And I thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, George, I've got three questions left for you. And the first of those three questions is this: I want your perspective on what it really means to, value and prioritize family values, and the responsibility you think fathers have to make a meaningful investment on what really constitutes great family values for your family, because each individual family is different. So, what do you think it means to have great family values, and how do you see the role of the dad in the process of creating and maintaining those family values, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's a deep one. Awesome, I love it, and I know everybody's going to be different where they sort of get their values from. A lot of them come from their parents or different sources. Our family, we're a Christian family, and we believe in God. We believe that He created this world, He created us, and He provided us with the blueprint of family values and structure. And so, yeah, we just reference to the good old book that's been around for thousands of years. Culture can change and give us different ideas of what that might look like, but we just reference to a structure that has stood the test of time. And we're big believers in father's the leader of the home. The presence of the dad is what dictates the direction of the household. And we believe in loving our wife and loving our children well, just like God loves us. And yeah, that's the source of our family values.
Yeah, absolutely. And George, the last sort of meat and potatoes question I wanted to ask you was about the 2 week vacation test that you say that most founder dads fail. So tell me about the 2 week vacation test and what you want people to know about it, buddy.
Absolutely. So when I'm working with a client and we're on an onboarding call, I usually ask them a question early on. I'll say, "Hey, so when would you like to schedule your 2 week vacation?" And they're sort of like a little dumbfounded. They're like, "What? I mean, I can't even take an afternoon off with something falling apart. How the heck am I going to take 2 weeks off?" And I love that response because my response to that is usually like, "Okay, great. You need this more than you know." And then so we get going, and I tell them about 6 months from now, schedule 2 weeks off, give or take. But we're gonna go on vacation, but it's not gonna be some like rip the cord or go cold turkey. So when we get started, for the first 2 weeks of working together, we identify the low-hanging fruit to get off the founder's plate. Usually that gets back anywhere from 10, 15, 20 hours, somewhere in that range. By day 90, we have our first version of this whole infrastructure that we're doing. Not perfect, but we're probably 90% there. And then after 90, between 90 days and then the 6 month vacation, we have a little bit of a window of time to stress test the system that we put together. And so you were freaking out about that 1 hour you couldn't take off in the afternoon. So that's going to be our first test. We're going to take off the entire afternoon, and you're going to realize the business doesn't fall apart. It's going to be a nice exercise to get the founder knowing and believing that they can take some time off without the business falling apart. So nothing happened. All right. Now the next absence rehearsal test is going to be a couple of days in the middle of the week. And that's where we'll see where anything might break. And if anything breaks, it's not going to be catastrophic. It might be something like, oh, accounting didn't get an invoice. So maybe the bill gets paid a day or two after the intended time. Maybe the fulfillment center didn't get an email to ship a product. Maybe it goes out a day or two later than intended. These aren't catastrophic failures in a business, but these are just little things that come up that, okay, we now have a couple of things we got to tighten up. So we tighten that up. And then we take one more little absence rehearsal test and we see, okay, we got everything. Now you're prepared to go on your 2 week vacation. And we have an installed a number two where everything is going to roll up to and just stop there. Nothing penetrates that person because you, the founder, are on vacation. You've empowered somebody with decision guardrails to handle situations. Nothing escalates unless it's some dramatic business situation that the founder must be looped into. It's never happened. I've had people ask, well, what could that be? It's just it has never happened. It's not even worth speculating over. And so the only thing that the founder is doing for those 2 weeks is getting a daily report. It's an email or it could even be a text message of the scoreboard. And the scoreboard is 5 to 8 things that every business owner should just be aware of on a daily basis. It's different for every business, but it should be at least top line revenue and bottom line revenue. It's like a daily P&L basically. And that will put the founder at ease. That'll reduce the cortisol that a lot of founders have when they're trying to take a vacation and it's never really a vacation. It's like a workcation. And so they'll see that their business is actually growing and scaling without them. And that's the pinnacle of it. So at the 6 months, when we can do that, then congratulations, you have your freedom. And after that, now the goal is to not get roped back in, because that's where we go back to the identity issues of, oh, I need to feel needed. I need to feel approved. I need to feel wanted. But we need to manage that and get our dopamine from somewhere else, not from being the hero to our business. And yeah, that is the 2 week vacation test.
Yeah, absolutely. And George, tell me, this is how I end all of my podcasts, my friend, because like you, I think legacy is important. So, how do you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined, buddy?
Yeah, just somebody who cared, somebody who prioritized what was important. Like I mentioned earlier at my funeral, I don't think anybody's going to care about my 2026 P&L, but I would like them to feel like, hey, George made a good impact. He poured a lot into us. Let's not just be takers of that. Now let's give back out. And so if I can inspire anybody is, hey, yeah, take what you can to like get the strength and the courage to do what you need to do, and then go back out there and just give it back out and try to replicate yourself, at least the message, the energy, the legacy, so that it can just go beyond your home. Because first, I'm super excited about getting the founder back with their home and the impact that that's going to have. But that's not just going to stay in the walls of that home. That's going to go out into the people that they know, and they're going to ask, wow, you're an amazing father, amazing husband, amazing leader. And so I'm just really excited about the ripple effects of this work. And my hope and prayer is that the right founder dads hear this message, take action, and create a legacy they can be proud of.
Yeah, I've got one final follow up because I'm curious to get your thoughts on the importance of engagement and building relationships for the people that work for you, because that's another way of getting your time back. So talk to me about employee engagement, relationship building, and trust, and how that's all interconnected in your view, my friend.
Absolutely. That's all part of our legacy too. And so I used to think I was a good leader, a good employer because I was the firefighter for my company. There's a problem, send it to George. He puts it out, and then I put it out. They'll praise me for it. I feel good. And I was getting my validation and my value in this world from being the hero to my business. But I realized I wasn't being a good leader. It's like, what could they say if they ever go and get another job? What did you do for George? Oh, we always just sent him the problem and he put the fire out. Like, that's not leadership. I'm not empowering them to think and solve problems on their own. So when I changed my structure where I was delegating outcomes, I taught them how to think for themselves. And oftentimes when you give them a proper structure to approach you, not just bombard you with questions at random, but you can only approach me once a week for a 15-minute set time. And when you do, here's the structure. That's the most loving thing I could do. I was empowering my people to become leaders so that if and when they were to move on to another career, they can be seen as problem solvers and achieving tasks at a high level versus just sending the boss the task for them to put out. And so that I'd like to say that my legacy is empowering leaders within my team.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, George, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that, my friend?
Yeah, I'm on all of the socials, so happy to connect with anybody. And if this conversation resonated, especially that feeling of being successful on paper, but missing at home, go to buybacktimeformula.com/freedom. You can take the Founder Freedom Scorecard. It's about a 2-minute process, and you'll see exactly where your business is leaking time, profit, and presence, and what to fix first. And if you're in the Austin area, because my primary home is in Austin, Texas, and this conversation hits close to home, I host a small dinner about once or twice a month for founder dads. There's no pitch, no agenda. It's just men who get it, and they're sitting around a table. And if you want a seat, reach out directly.
Absolutely, buddy. And I want to thank you for taking some time to chat with me this morning, all about the importance of dads getting their time back, and all of the great work that you're doing to help dads really prioritize what matters, my friend. It's great to see you this morning, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation. It's most appreciated, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. It's been fun, and I hope your listeners enjoy it.